confused now because I was like, oh, a few minutes ago I knew it was morning, so I was ready to say good morning. But now I'm like, you're about to leave work and I'm about to start my day. So I guess we'll just say hello.
So let's call it even afternoons then.
Good.
Hi.
How are you? How was your week?
Very good, very good. Yeah, quite accomplished. So that's good.
That's a good
Happy with
feeling.
how it went.
You seem satisfied.
Yes,
That's good.
yeah, I'm satisfied with the work that we're able to achieve this week. Yeah.
That's amazing. So,
And you?
Ella Martin Chuwa,
Hmm?
corporate banker, EMBA holder, mom, wife,
Sister,
business
daughter.
owner. Did I forget something? Or just
No, I think.
entrepreneur? Because I'm sure you're not just going to stop at just having one business.
Oh, thank you. That's definitely on my wish list. Yes.
See? So you have all those hats. Where did Ella's story start? Like, where did you go to school? Did you like it? Did you learn something that made you who you are? Just tell us about it if you don't mind.
Yeah, actually, I was pondering about that, how I grew up and where we went to school a while ago, and thinking to myself that I'm very glad that I started how I started, because I think it's made me quite grounded as a person. So, I mean, I started school in Cameroon in a modest town of Limbe, which I love very much. Limbe is very serene. I went to primary school in Limbe, and then went to boarding school in Limbe, a single sex boarding school in Limbe, and then a co-ed or a mixed boarding school in Boya for high school. So pretty much the first part of my education was in the southwest region of Cameroon. And I remember at the time in Limbe, if I can put it like this, I grew up in an environment where we were from a well-renowned family, and in my day-to-day relations, I dealt with, just everyday people. And I never grew up feeling like an elitist, which is, I think, very good, because it has made me to be able to insert myself into any situation today, and to be able to relate with anyone from all walks of life. I mean, from the first class, the middle class, to just our everyday friends, without obvious stratification, which I think has served me very well. I'm really grateful to God for that grounding and that simplification and all that simple way of growing up. I remember as we grew up, my father was very adamant that his children were not going to go abroad, because he wanted them to have a real sense of who they were. And
Mm.
so, although I saw, a few of my friends going abroad after a school, before in high school or in college, and even after O levels and A levels. For us, it was never really something that we could do until we were adults and knew who we were. So I'm actually quite grateful to God for that. And then I did my high school or my college, my university in London, and doing it in the UK was completely self it was a completely personal journey, because I remember my mother said to us, like, look, you can go to university anywhere you want to go to university, as long as you can get in and you can qualify for it on your own merits. And that's something that I worked very hard to do. And so going to the University of Nottingham was completely me sitting in front of a computer, getting admission, and then saying, okay, I've got admission, this is what I need in terms of travel and in terms of fees. So it taught me from a very young age to be completely self-reliant and independent. Obviously, I had mom and dad to thank for paying for education. So all in all, very happy with my education. Going schooling in the UK also helped me to be able to qualify for an MBA, which I did in, as you know, in some of the top universities, business schools of the world, London School of Business and Economics and Political Science, New York University Stern School of Business, HEC Paris, Haute Études
Can you repeat the
de
last
Management.
one? HEC Paris sounds so
I know,
fancy. HEC Paris. I'm sorry. I was
I
just
know.
like, ooh.
I just rolled. I mean, I didn't realize how good a school it was until we were in Paris and in in the cabs, when you say you're going to HEC and they're like, ooh, HEC, mais il part HEC.
Ah,
That's when we understood how well regarded the school was. And so yes, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have an education as rich and varied as that. I think it's led me really to where I am today. So yeah, I learned
so
something every step of the way.
what's your current position at the moment? What do you do?
So I work at SCB Cameroon, which is a local, well, not a local, what is a subsidiary of a group at Jaiwafa Bank, a leading North African institution and the first bank in Morocco. They have a filial in Cameroon, which is SCB Cameroon, which was purchased from Credit Agricole, before that Credit Lyonnais. So I work as a senior relationship manager and looking after our telecom and oil and gas sector and some sovereign as well. So really large corporates, large enterprises. And
That's a big portfolio, huh?
it's a very demanding portfolio, yes. A very sensitive portfolio, yes.
So in your day-to-day, when you go about your work, how do you manage? Because I mean, we all know Cameroon. I was born in Cameroon, grew up in Cameroon. Looking at a young woman handling big names, all those oil and gas company, as they
Yeah.
say in Cameroon, they are not for small children. You know what I'm saying? It involves a
Uh-huh.
lot of money, a lot of big contracts. The contracts have
Yeah.
many zero and all that after the first digits. So,
Yeah.
what's the reception that your clients gave to you? Was it challenging as the young woman, as a young Cameroonian? I mean, or was it easier because having studied abroad, you're coming back or something? How was it? How is it for you?
That's a very good question. A couple of days ago at one of the biggest oil exploratory companies in Cameroon, actually not a couple of days ago on Wednesday. And I remember thinking to myself, if I hadn't had the history or the career path that I had, I wouldn't have the confidence to sit in front of these large scale oil drillers who probably account for at least 25% of the country's import taxes. I wouldn't have the courage to sit in front of them. But you're right. You need a certain level of confidence to speak with the who's and who's in the nation. And you have to remember, I literally just moved back to Cameroon in August and started here in November. So I hadn't really had time to acclimatize myself to the culture and change in culture, although I have worked here in the past. But I have to say that, when I introduce myself and, you try to give a brief history of your career to date and where you've been and what you've done, it almost gives you the right to sit at the table, right? So I'm a woman, I'm young, yes, but I have been to places, seen places, and had quite a bit of experience. And that really is the leverage that I use to break some of the ice in in these conversations. Today, we were at a meeting with a renowned wood a player in the market, and he's Italian. And at the end of the meeting, we started talking about my favorite Italian dishes and my former manager who used to be Italian, and the speciality of the Italian mozzarella and the prosciutto ham. And he just went off on a tangent, right? So things like that give you an extra to bring to the conversation have helped a lot in breaking the ice in some of those conversations. And obviously the experience of managing different and complex transactions. So I think I wouldn't be able to do this job if I hadn't had the career and experience to date that I had.
So, do you always have to be like, when you show up, the fact that you're employed as a senior, because you're a senior banker right now, speaks to itself, as in when you walk into a local, a client's office, do they welcome you as the banker that you are? Or sometimes they're a little bit like, reticent, like, bonjour, madame. Like, who are you here for? What do you want? Something, expecting to see maybe
Yeah.
some. Have you ever felt like they expect somebody more mature, I mean, we are not
Yeah,
kids, but compared to, I feel like the
I know exactly
retirement
what you mean.
zone is still, in progress. People stay at their
Yeah.
position for like the longest time. It's only now that we see more young people getting up there, becoming CEO and all that, more and more.
Mhm.
So, do you have that, or is it just like, okay, the banker is here, my card speak for itself?
Yeah, so a bit of both, yes and no. Yes, because I do have some sovereign clients in my portfolio where you're speaking to ministries and people in authority in on the political, not political, but on the sovereign state side. But on the private side, no, not really, because I think it's more about how I feel when I walk into the room. And I remember when I started doing my MBA in London, and my boss said to me, like, you don't need this MBA to get promoted. I think that on the merit of the work that you're doing, you will get promoted. And I remember thinking to myself, yes, I don't need it for London, but because I eventually hope to move back to Africa, I think I will get to a point where I will feel like if I don't have something extra, I won't be able to stand and be present as I would like to be in the room. So it's more a personal thing.
Mm.
It's more a personal thing that I think shows then is mirrored externally. So if I walk into a private company with confidence, as soon as I start speaking, there's that respect. On the state side, there's still that, we need to be speaking to the boss of the boss of the boss. So, but as long as the boss of the boss of the boss respects me, if they get the job done and I get the positioning on the back of that, then I'm cool with that. I think what I think everyone should do is use all the tools they've been giving to get what they need to get. Now, if you're a woman, I'm not saying that you should just sell your wares, but there's no harm in being feminine enough, so that you can connect better with some hearts and minds. And if you're very intellectual, there's no harm in scaring the audience with your intellectuality to
Your
get the
intellect,
respect that you
yeah.
need. Yeah.
I mean, I think I see what you're saying, because a lot of time people can be scared. You might think that being reserved, you have to let yourself be. Like you said, you could talk about prosciutto ham and all those things, mozzarella. It's just because you let yourself open to learn all those things. The reason I'm saying it is, yes, you went abroad, but in my little experience going abroad, you can see Cameroonian in they're living abroad like they're still in Cameroon, meaning
Yes,
they're
and I
not
think
open
yes,
enough to welcome other
right,
culture, to try. But you did
and
not
that's
do
the mistake. No, I think anyone who's abroad and who doesn't become part of the fabric of society is really missing out on the opportunity, because it really doesn't make sense to go abroad and just remain in the society that you're used to. You really need to go out there, be a sponge, get as much as you can in terms of culture, in terms of a different way of thinking and doing things. And by all means, sift to see what you can use and what really is completely against your background and against your education and culture. But at the end of the day, the idea is to come back with something extra, without losing parts of yourself, obviously, because some people do also leave, and they really do lose parts of themselves or of their heritage. That's not the idea here. The idea is to come back richer and with more experience.
okay. So why coming back to Cameroon? Like, what pushed you back home? What brought you back? We are happy to see you home. You look good. You're doing good. But tell us, everybody wants to leave. Most people want to leave. The trick
It's
is
very
that
interesting
life
because
is better on that side. So
the
you should.
grass is greener on the other side, for sure, for sure. I mean, even before I left, I'm going to be honest. The first time I left for university, I didn't really think much about coming back. I was just going for a new experience. But I did come back, and then I left again for marriage. And I think the second time I left, I did promise myself that I was going to come back, because while I was there in the first instance, I didn't really connect with the life the way that someone who goes for good connects. And I think it's because of the way, we grew up. First of all, we only went in our adults, and you see that a lot with Nigerians, when they go for university or they go in their old age, they always come back because they go after knowing who they are. Or even, people that live here in their university days, they go after knowing who they are already. And so there's that pool of who you are or what you left behind that keeps drawing you back. So you go, you explore, you find new things, and then you want to come back and change things. So that was kind of what it was. It was for me. The second time around when I left, I always knew I was going to come back. I just didn't know when. And obviously, COVID just presented the perfect opportunity to just take the horn, the cow by the horns and just bite the bullet and come back. Take the bull by the horns, sorry, bite the bullet and come back.
So since you've been back, are you happy of where Cameroon is now compared to where you left? Is there more room for a young woman with your baggage to make it? Opportunities? What do you feel like?
That's a tough question because I don't feel the country is so much more different in terms of culture from when I left. But I would say this though, that there's been a lot of developmental and infrastructure change, which is very good. And obviously that brings with it economic growth and development. In terms of us changing how we are and how we think, perhaps I didn't really want for that to change too much, because one of the things that I really wanted to come back to was our way of being and our way of doing things. And I'm going to be honest and say that it's more difficult in Africa than it is abroad, because here I like to call what we have organized chaos. Whereas abroad, everything's organized, everyone's disciplined. But home is home, right? It's better the devil you know than the angel you don't know. So I'm glad to be back to the intricacies and the idiosyncrasies of our nation. They are hard to deal with, but I think everyone who does come back should come back with a desire to make one thing better, and then hopefully the fabric of society changes for the best. But are things completely different to when I left? Yes and no. But that's the beauty of it. It's yes in the positive way, and no in the positive way, and yes also in the positive way.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's what makes you happy to be back as well, because if you have come back to something completely new, it won't be home anymore.
Yes, it won't be home anymore.
So tell me, Ella, growing up, did you ever think you become a banker? Because I remember, I know that your late dad was
an accountant.
Yeah. He worked for a bank as well. Like, he was really well known. And then you coming behind, and you're almost like in the same industry. So did you ever think that? What was your plan when you were little? What did you want to be?
When I was little, I wanted to be a film star.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that one though.
When I was little, I wanted to be a film star. I think I just wanted to be the center of attraction, like every little girl wants to be. So I'll chalk that down to infant or juvenile episodes.
Fantasy.
But when I did start really thinking, yes, exactly, infants, when I really started thinking about really earning a salary and making a difference in the world that I and the environment that I am in, I started, the only thing I knew I wanted to do was I wanted to be in the corporate world, and I wanted to work my way up the corporate ladder. I knew that I wanted to hold a briefcase. I wanted to ride in a black shiny car, and I wanted to wear suits with skirts. I also knew that I was very good at math in school and in the sciences. So I ended up doing a science degree. So how I went from science to banking is a very interesting change, because I did a degree in biotechnology. And once, while I was thinking about what I really wanted to do in the future, I thought about working in pharmaceutical. But then I realized that one part of my dream wouldn't come true, the part about dressing up in suits and entering and holding a briefcase and entering into a black shiny car. I didn't think that was going to happen in pharmaceutical. And so I quickly lost interest. And then I was spending some time in Cameroon, going, accompanying my mother to some meetings, and it just dawned on me that I could be a banker. And I remember meeting someone who said to me, "What did you study in school?" And I said, "By sciences." And they were like, if you didn't do economics, you would never be a banker." And I think that was the day I decided I was going to be a banker. And I think I've done a pretty good job at it.
I
Job of
think
it.
so too. I think so too. I mean, from your resume, one thing I know is you have a good training. You went through a program at the time, a program that kind of grounded you, gave you that base. But then again, it's through your hard effort because you learn. People can give you the tools, but it's up to you to grasp them and to
That's
make
right.
something of them. So I feel like you actually got a proper structure to become the banker that you are today. But I also feel like you've wanted it. You know what I mean? Like you had that,
I wanted it definitely.
you had that,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
Just a question. Do you have the black shiny car already, or you're still working towards it?
I'm still working towards it. But
Okay.
it's coming. It's
Okay.
coming.
So Ella is now the super banker, senior banker, but you also started a new business. It's been what, 6 years now? 7?
Yes, indeed, 6 years. Wow, that's. I actually I remember opening a boutique fashion store on my in my at a milestone birthday. So when I was turning 30, I did, and I said, if this works, it works. But this is the one thing I would say that I did when I was 30 years old. And yes, so today that business is actually diverging into a new line, which is manufacturing our own pieces, which is something that I had wanted to do from the start, but I was kind of waiting for the right time, and I think the right time is now. So we're going to launch our second line towards the end of this month. And yes, that would be the beginning of a new story for Thonbs. Hitherto, Thonbs has been a boutique that buys and sells affordable workwear, party wear, casuals to women. But henceforth, it's going to be a boutique that curates fabrics and textiles and turns them into amazing pieces for women who want to stand out in their corporate situations, in their home casual situations, or even out on the town in a party.
All I hear is basically you're trying to encourage us to wear our own fabric, our own material with pride. Because when I take, for example, the Nigerians, they manage to wear, is it what they call Ankara? They make some
Yep.
really nice corporate outfit with them.
Yep.
They make gorgeous evening wear with them. People even started making sportswear with such material. So I think with Tom's going that way, maybe you become our little push, to get us to also do that because I'm here, but I'm shopping in Nigeria, So
Wow. See? Should be shopping in Cameroon.
I'm shopping in Cameroon now, but I have to be honest with you. We still don't get me wrong, we have nice tailors in Cameroon, but
We have a long way to go. Yes.
we need
I
to
agree.
find.
No, you're super right.
So for a shop to come up and have those pieces, I think it's something that we need because right now I feel like people are more and more open to see the beauty in what we
Of
have.
our heritage. Yes. And I mean, it's not just that as well, right? Like I was in Lagos a couple of weeks ago, and I went into the shop and I noticed that they sold a collection of local brands. And yes, some of the styles and the cuts were European, but you could tell that the fabric and the craftsmanship was local. And it's like, maybe in London when you go into John Lewis and you have a host of different designers showcasing their work. It felt almost like that, but I could tell that all the pieces and all the brands were homemade brands. And yes, the styles were some European styles, or sometimes, just different styles. Some of the fabric or the textile was local and some wasn't. But who's to say that, It has to always be Ankara. It can be a mix and match. It can be only Ankara. It can be, just a hint of. Sometimes it's just in the cuts that you
Mhm.
can tell it's local. And I think Cameroon needs to actually get to catch up in terms of the race. But we can't really compare both countries. I mean, Nigeria has 100
Yeah.
and what 60 million people. Cameroon has what 28 million. There's a different kind of drive and hunger over there.
Well, we have
Yep.
to do what we can with what we have. So if you have lemon, let's try to make our lemonade. So
Yes,
when you look at
indeed.
the way Cameroon is going, the way the country is at the moment, when you look at what women are doing nowadays, do you think that we've accomplished something additional to what the generation before us, you know, did?
Oh, yes, yes. I think that somehow we've raised our women to be more of a contributor to society and to do it without feeling as though they're not women. I think we've raised our women, or we'll have more women who are trying to be more than what we were in the past, right? So I don't know, 100 years ago, maybe a woman was, an addition to. I mean, if you go right down to the Stone Age, right? The role of a woman was to bear children and maybe make food, after the hunt was done. But in today's society, I want to believe that we're moving towards a 50-50 culture. And I think it removes some of the strain that our men have felt in the past, that kind of strain that leads to even depression and leads people to wanting to go to resort to dark magic and new peculiar ways of making it to feel like a man. I think that the society that we live in today has there's a bit of equilibrium to that pressure, so the man doesn't really feel completely underwhelmed or overwhelmed, and the woman doesn't feel completely underwhelmed. I think there's a bit of mutual admiration and mutual understanding in the way we relate in today's culture, which I really do appreciate, and I think it helps us raise the right kind of um of of society where there's mutual appreciation and people just want to help. They don't want to take advantage of. They want to do their bit for the family. Yeah.
Being a mother of a young girl, future woman, what do you think your job is? What do you feel like you should focus on to make her become the best she can be tomorrow? What kind of values do you think she needs to kind grow up and become, a woman of character, a woman of success, from what you know and from your past and your experience, from your upbringing, from what your mom taught you? Because when I look at you, I look at your sister. I mean, your sister is not doing bad at all on her own side.
Yeah.
So, what do you think as a mom now, with all that your daughter needs to learn, that you need to pass on to her to make sure she knows growing up?
I'm a very strong advocate for people um, finding their own way, making their own mistakes, and carving out the future that they want for themselves. So with that in mind, and I do that this for my son as well. I I do my best to help them know that one, they can achieve anything that they want to achieve if they put their minds to it. And the only thing that I can do is to encourage them to dream and to think outside the box and not to fear that anything anywhere stops them from being as much as or as little as they want to be. So naturally, I'm someone who's very driven, and so I do sometimes find myself really driving my kids, but I also remember that I see in them completely individualistic tendencies that have nothing to do with me. And I really seek grace every day to try and nurture those characters, even when some of them are completely foreign or alien to me, so that they can be like a real whole person. So for me, for my daughter, especially because that's how you phrase the question, a strong sense of self-worth. ridiculously strong sense of self-worth. And I think with that foundation, she can be and do anything that she wants to do, and become someone who takes absolutely no abuse, or even accept less than the best from anyone.
That's actually a very good point. If somebody was to talk to you back then, what do you wish that they would have told you then? That you know now, but you wish that then you knew.
I wish someone just told me to chill. And I still tell myself that these things work themselves out. In my old age, I've come to realize that a strong desire usually produces results. And oftentimes, I found myself worrying about the process and forgetting that just because my desire was so strong, it would work itself out. And now I'm more of a person who puts out a strong desire into the universe and then sit back and watch it happen or watch it come to me. Whereas before, the desire will be there, but I'll also be struggling to make it happen. Now I kind of just let things take the course. As long as there's a strong desire and a willingness to do what it takes, things usually come when they should come, and when it's time, when you're ready. And so I definitely would have told myself to just chill.
Well, I'm hearing you. I'm still like I'm a whole ball of worry. I worry all the time. I worry about my kid in school. I worry about all my days. What am I gonna do? And sometimes I need to take a break and I'm trying to breathe. I learned this thing called meditation not long ago. And it's not as fancy as the name sound. It's just about learning to take a moment. Just
Yeah.
a moment and usa.
Oh, I have to take a moment every day, first thing in the day, and I am completely enslaved to self-care. I do not joke with self-care, because if I'm not 100%, and if I'm in a situation where I'm not 100%, I quickly get out of it. That's another thing that I try to do now, because I realize that if I'm not 100%, I don't give 100% to my kids, or to my work, or to my family, or to my relationships. And so I'm really adamant, and encourage everyone out there to be completely dedicated to self-care, and to be sensitive to situations that take away from you instead of adding, and to get out of those situations, because the longer we stay in things in situations that subtract from us, the less of ourselves that we are, and the more untrue to ourselves we are.
That's a very good point. I want to ask you now about mental health, because what you
Very
just said
important.
just speaks mental to me. Do you think that we young women or Cameroonian women care as much? Because I know we care about our body. We always try to look good. That's a fact. But do we take as much care of our minds than we do for our body?
No, I don't think we do. In fact, I think it's men and women alike. And I think because I'm a woman, I'll focus specifically on women. And it's something that I feel very strongly about. I don't think that we do. And I think that we tolerate situations where our mental health is under attack more than we should. In fact, I strongly believe that that lack of care of mental health is the reason why we develop all kinds of complications, and some of us, or some people don't actually live as long as they would live, right? So, say for example, a woman in a situation where maybe she doesn't feel heard, or she's not really coping well at home, and maybe she's not 100% uh, what she thinks she should be in terms of her mental health, and it can be because something physical isn't happening, or something emotional isn't happening. So once the mental health is compromised, I think that's the root cause of some of the issues that we have in terms of health, in terms of strokes that women have, in terms of cancers that we develop from nowhere, in terms of high blood pressure, and same for men, right? It's the fact that we tolerate situations where, or we accept to take on things that are detrimental to our health and to our mental health, and those things, it's a chain reaction, right? It's those things lead to other complications internally that end up maybe cutting short our existence, or maiming our experiences in life in such a way that we don't live our best life. And so I really do think, especially in our culture, that as women we should really be sensitive to our health, because at the end of the day, that's all you've got, right? What you have, what your heritage is, your health, and it's what you also pass down to your kids. If you have, strong mental health and the best version of yourself, they learn to also look after themselves in that exact same way. So I feel very strongly about mental health and all kinds of strange reasons why women, die prematurely or develop some kinds of, ailments.
Yeah. A lot of people have there's this new word saying you are depression. There you go. Depression
Oh
is
yes,
it's a
it's
very
more
common
rampant than,
word around me
yeah,
here. I live in the US and I hear a lot about depression. We don't talk about depression enough back home. That's my opinion,
yeah,
because when we have babies, people don't think, but having babies is taking
yeah,
care of
and the
them.
different levels, right? Yeah, it is. I agree, completely
Taking
agree.
care of them is tough. Granted, in Cameroon, if you can afford it, you get the help, and we also have family. But not, it is still very difficult to manage. So, what is Ella coping mechanism? How do you cope with all those activities? You have work, you go in the morning, you come late. You have your business. Now you're working on a new line about to launch. I'm sure that's a lot of following up here, making sure things are done right. You have two gorgeous kids to take care of who need mommy time. Not to even mention the big kid, you know,
Yeah.
Thonbs.
Listen, as Sheryl Sandberg said, Google CEO, we can't do it all. And I listened to this lady, Joyce Meyer, as well a lot. And she said, sometimes God gives you gifts and he gives you areas of expertise, things that you do naturally, like she's a natural teacher and a natural leader. And although she has strong views as to how the home should look and how food should be cooked, you can't do everything, right? So if you can outsource some things, outsource them. But the trick about outsourcing things is that when you do outsource them, you can't completely control them. So, say for example, I have a lady who helps out with the kids at home, so like a nanny that lives in, and obviously, she's they don't give your kids the same things that you would give your kids if you were in that position, right? Because you have to go out and work. And sometimes you need to insist on some things, and other times it's really not that serious. You know, like if the plantains don't get cut a particular way, the way the kid likes it, it's not that big a deal. If I'm not there to cut it how he likes it, and she cuts it how she likes it, honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? So it's hard, when you outsource those kinds of sensitive tasks to remove yourself and let things be. But in order to stay sane, you kind of have to. Otherwise, you're like you said, right? You can't do everything as a woman, or especially as a working woman. You can't do anything. You want to be a perfect mother, a perfect wife, and a perfect employee, but really you need all the help that you can, and you should take it gracefully.
So right now, do you think you have a working mechanism in place to help you, manage everything properly and sustainably?
Yes, in fact, that was one of the reasons why we came back, because I just needed to find some help, and I just, I see, I grew up in a society where there were lots of people around the house. My mom's relatives were always around, and so we never really were bored as kids growing up, or relied on our mothers for everything. But as I raised my kids abroad, I realized that they really get to rely on you as their primary caregiver for everything. And I thought I wanted them to experience, a more varied source of not parenting, but a more varied source of care. And because when you're the only one, or when you and your husband are the only ones providing that care, it really can take away most of your energy. And that's one of the reasons why we came back, because I was like, look, I need help. I need help with homework. I need help with cooking. I need help with laundry. And then I can work. And I can do all those things and work at the same intensity. So, yes, right now we have a system that works. we have someone that helps at home. It's nice because we can afford it, whereas in London perhaps we couldn't. And not just we can afford it, but you're also helping change someone else's life, right? Whoever's providing that help is getting sustenance that they can then use to change their own their own background or their own lives. And so
Mhm.
yes, we do now have a support system that I rely on a lot, for help with the kids at home, so that I can do the things that no one else can. I think in life, do the things that no one else can't but you, and the other things that other people can as well as you, delegate them, and only do the things that only you can do.
I mean, I hear you, and I'm like, I wish we can have like a big microphone and just broadcast it all over the place. Because I've had experience and I've met some people who, against all odds, will never come back home. Okay? They will never come back home. They make it sound like it's like a downgrade, like a failure or something, but it's not in terms. You go for what you want. You wanted help. You were bold enough to realize that, hey, I'll get help back home. And you made the right decision for yourself. Because right now you feel like the mechanism is working. You get to work. You can give your best at work. Your kids are happy. You see them. You spend time with them. So basically, you are not overwhelmed. And I can tell you a lot about me.
Exactly.
Trust me.
That
I
is it. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about not being overwhelmed. And yes, I no longer feel like that. And that is in itself. If that was the only achievement that we got from this, I would be happy. But it's not the only achievement. I mean, I look at my kids now, and they're so, I don't know what the word is. They're so not even settled. They
they adapted.
I think yeah, I feel like they've matured, and they've grown into these little Cameroonians who know who they are and what they're doing, and where they're from. And I mean, if tomorrow they went abroad, I'm pretty sure they'll come back. And even if they didn't come back, they would be living there like people from here. And I think that alone is a big achievement.
So you have no stand per se as to whether or not somebody who goes out must come back. If I get you right, you say do what works for you, but just know who you are and be true to
Yeah.
yourself. Is that what
Yes,
you're saying?
exactly. That's it.
Let me ask you this, Ella. How does Ella cope with tough situation when things are hard, difficult? Have you ever been in a position where you feel like, man, I'm stuck? What the heck? What am I gonna do? How do you
Yes.
cope? Do you cry? Do you give up? What's your process?
I cry. I definitely cry. But what I realized about myself recently was that
Look
I'll
at me
cry,
laughing when you say I cry. I'm like, woohoo!
I'll cry, I'll get depressed, but for some reason I am not able to dwell in it. So I think the longest I have allowed myself to wallow in self-pity is 2 days. And after that, I actually get tired of, I actually feel I have an out of body experience where I'm like, I'm kind of tired of being depressed. And so I snap
Down.
out of it
Yeah.
and I start making a plan. I start making a plan, and I don't function without plans. I don't function well without plans. I always have to be working towards something, working towards an Ivy League school for the kids, working towards a new business project, working towards a new career progression, working towards a new self-improvement plan, or working towards a new desire and bringing it into existence. I feel like if I don't have a project, then there's something wrong. And I get it. Not everyone is like that, but because I'm like that, it doesn't really allow me to be in the same position for too long. So my coping mechanism is cry, get it out of your system, and then make a plan.
Cry, getting out of your system. Yeah, I can relate to that because when I cry real good. Real good. You'll think that the world is ending. But the thing is, for me, I try not to cry two times for the same thing.
Of course.
I mean, I don't know if it happens much, but most time I just cry a good crying, go down for a while, and that's it. You got to get back up. So
Yeah,
when you
plus
look
if
at
you cry the second time, maybe you haven't learned your lesson, right?
even to me, I'm like, to me, crying is not a weakness. If that works for
Oh
you,
no, it's not.
just let it out.
Yeah,
Okay, let it
yes,
out
I agree.
because
And we should let our boys cry if they need
thank
to.
you. I'm against society putting pressure on people as to what their emotion or how they should handle themselves. Granted, society has the power to mold us somehow, okay? But I don't think society should have the paramount power. It should be there should be some kind of control over
Right.
what power society exercise on people or on young people. We can't just give society all the powers. After all, we are individual first before being part of the society. And it's the combination of all individuals that makes a society, not the other way around, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so
I agree. 100% agree with that.
I
Deep
am
insight right there.
talking about fashion now. When you came home or when you started Thonbs, I know you had some pieces and brands from England, Europe, and things like that. And now you are opening another window, trying to be more local.
Yep.
How do you see the competition? Because I'm not in Cameroon, but I am such a lover of fashion and clothing. And right now, boy, you guys have a lot of competition. There are so many great shops. I heard of one called Laquelle.
Yes.
The other name. How do you see it?
In fact, I like see competition is good because I think it fuels ambition and innovation. So hands down, I'm a big fan of competition. In fact, because I'd had the idea of launching our own brand for so long and I'd never put it into practice, when I saw Laquelle for the first time, I was like, that's my cue. It's time to launch. And so in a way, Laquelle really was a reason why we said, okay, look, let's get this off the ground because it has been in our minds and on the books for too long. And this is something that we've always wanted to do. So maybe now is the right time. Maybe the market is ready to consume this. And so in that sense, competition is great because it fueled a drive that we had, but it was kind of latent and it fueled, innovation. And I'm sure, with the new competition, everyone's going to strive to be a little bit better, strive to, to get better cuts, better pieces, a better fabric. And that's good. That's good for the society. It's good for business as well.
And when you look at the way things are now back home, do you think there's enough structure, enough messages for young girls to evolve, to feel like and to feel empowered enough to believe that they are capable to get wherever they want to be if they put the work to it? Do you
No,
think that
so
there's enough messages, enough I don't know, billboards promoting, and also enough infrastructure? Do our culture, our environment allow that young girl to be able to just be like, I can be that. I can do this. And I'm not just
so
talking.
again, that's so again, sorry if I cut you short. I think again that's a yes or no answer. Yes, because there's some really really good initiatives out there. There are lots of private and even state-owned companies that are doing a lot for the woman, for the girl child, through via their corporate social responsibility. I've seen quite a few good things, and even financing that's catered or targeted towards women. I've seen a lot of that. It also helps that we have, our Miss Cameroon, and we have our Miss competitions, and enough of advertising that doesn't shy away from using women as the face of the advertising. And some of our previous Miss are now, leading very very good and lucrative and international careers on the back of the notoriety that they got when they were Miss Cameroon or Miss Town or Miss Ville or Miss City. So those are happening very well. but the no comes from the fact that I think we can do more in terms of having the right kinds of women who are already in leadership, having platforms or foundations or NGOs or give back mechanisms where, like this Can Do Ladies, you use your experience and your path to date to inspire the next generation of women coming behind you, women in positions of authority, using their positions of authority to also make a way for other women. I think we can do more of that. We can do more of foundations and structures and NGOs out there that really are centered around rebuilding the confidence in women, or helping women to be an equal contributor in society, so that the responsibilities can be more evenly shared, and the pressure and the hardness of society can get alleviated. But there's some good things out there. There's some good initiatives out there. Maybe they just need to be more publicized.
Mm. I remember during one of our conversations, because we are nearing the end. So I remember during one of our conversations, you mentioned something like it's important to pass the right message to our young generation of women, not just for them, but also for our boys, and not because they're going to marry them or anything, but you give a better society when you have a good mix of good men, strong women, and strong men. Why
Yeah.
do you believe so? Like, what's your mindset when you said that?
I was coming from a place of, I think sometimes I consider myself quite peculiar. My brother calls me a feminist, but I I'm not sure if I think I am a feminist, but inside of me, I'm still a girly girl, feminine and vulnerable even, right? But there's also a part of me that wants to be taken seriously, that wants to be given the same opportunities, that also wants to contribute to society. So I have that mix. And I think we need to raise our boys and our girls to be able to be one thing in society, um, that allows room for the other person. So, the way I look at raising my son and my daughter now is, my son knows he's a man, and he knows the role of a man in our culture is to provide, to protect, to provide security. But in doing so, if he does it with conscience and with understanding, it gives sufficient room for the woman to be the woman. And women are quite good in things like management of households and even people leadership, soft skills, right? And I think if we raise our men to be completely comfortable in what they provide society and not put too much pressure on them, then it also allows them to give women sufficient room to be themselves, sufficient room to be a feminine, but also a leader, sufficient room to be girly, but also a CEO, because there's nothing wrong with being a girly CEO. What we don't want is to see women who are CEOs who act like men. So take, for example, Gwendolyn Abono is a good example of a woman who's a woman. I mean, she looks girly and feminine, but she's a CEO, she leads the bank. So I think we need to raise our kids more like that. And she's married to a man who's also himself a managing partner of one of the big four. And it seems to me that there's room in their relationship for both of them to exist and do what they do best. And so I do believe that we need to raise a woman. Like I raised my daughter to decide if she wants to be a stay-at-home wife and a full-time mom. And it's fine to do that. If the man that she's partnering is happy to fulfill that role, but it shouldn't be she has to do that and the man who's coming in has to play that role. They both have to have the same understanding and the same desires. And there are also some women who want to work, and the men don't necessarily want to be the complete or 100% breadwinners. And those two people should also find themselves and be together. So I think that we should raise our kids in such a way that they can be themselves and allow their partners to be themselves, and create room for each of the sexes to come together to make something that works. Men who want to be the sole provider should be able to find women who are happy to be provided for, and men who don't necessarily want to carry the weight of the full family on their shoulders I'm sure there are women out there who are ready to contribute. I think we should be able to. We should, as men and women, have the choice to decide how much or how little we bring into the household without any guilt.
I think so too. I think, like you mentioned, it's all about self-worth. Okay, because if as a woman or a young woman you have your self-worth, if you want to go into a marriage situation, then obviously you know exactly who you are and you know what you can bring into that relationship, and that will give you a little bargaining power and a ground for discussion, because you can table, okay, so and so it's what I need, and find a partner that could probably meet you halfway or something. So it's, to me, I feel like it goes from the beginning, from know yourself, be able to do you with or without a partner. And if you find a
And
partner,
that's very important. I think you've just that's it right there. Everyone should be able to do them without someone else, and then it just becomes more fun, right? If you're self-sufficient and you have, like the Bible says, to the coins went to the man who had more. So
so if you were to talk to our younger generation, if they were listening to you now, what would you tell them? What do you want them to know? What values do you want them to remember as they grow up and as they're about to enter? For those who are, for example, seeking for jobs or thinking that internship are just like, oh, je fais juste un stage, I'm just doing a small internship, because I feel like there are still people like that. They undervalue internships. A lot of young people these days, I've seen people who they turn down opportunities because they were not paid enough. They want the big bucks right away.
Yeah.
I mean, what message would you tell them? You and I know, because we work together. We started as intern, and the bucks
Happy days. Yes.
bucks were definitely not the first thing on the list. Else you never have been. And look at you. You stayed, you pushed. I don't know times how much you have tripled or quadrupled or 100. But my point is there. It's just that I don't know what to say to them sometimes. Like, I can say, look at me. When I talk to my young ones, sometimes I'm like, look at me, but they just don't get it. So what would you tell them?
Maybe three things. And these three things have really worked for me. So I hope that they are age-old truths and that they work for everyone else. I would say hard work pays. It doesn't matter who you're working for, work as though you're working for yourself, because you never know when your big break might come. You never know who's watching. And an opportunity meets preparedness or preparation. It's never just luck. There's no such thing as just luck. So hard work pays, and one day you'll be in the right place at the right time and you get a break. Patience is a virtue, because so many people have stopped short of striking gold just before they did because they got fed up. So there's one thing that life and the universe has taught me, is that if you keep at something, you would eventually break through. And so not unless you're very sure that you should stop what you're doing, patience is a virtue. And it's true, the patient dog gets the fattest bone. Usually the person who starts with the smallest salary ends up running the show, right? I mean, look at the last CEO of Standard Chartered Bank London. She started her career as a teller. So these things happen. Patience is really a virtue. The third thing I would say is, life is really what we make it. If we choose to learn from our mistakes, fall down 7 times to get up 8 times, it is what you put into it that you get out, right? Life is really what you make it. If you decide, strongly that you are going to live a happy, fulfilled life and put such strong desire behind it, you'll find yourself getting the opportunities that allow you to come through on that desire. So really, life is really what we make it, right? It all starts, with the hope, that becomes a dream, that becomes a plan, and that becomes, an action, and that becomes a reality. But we should dream, and we should all dream in color. But we should not just dream. We should make plans, and we should not just make plans. We should take action, and we should not just take action. We should keep at it until our dreams are fulfilled. And dream in color. Not enough to dream in black and white. That's what I'd say. Those three things: hard work, patience, and life is what you make it.
Thank you, Ella. I think
Thank you,
until next
Miss.
time,
Thank
because I
you,
feel like
Mrs.
I'm sorry.
Thank you too. Thank you for your time. And I know we had some technical issues to begin with, but I'm glad that we're able to make it happen.
I am glad too. I'm so happy. In fact, I'm happy and I'm thankful and I'm grateful that, you're back home and you may not realize it, but you are doing your little part. You're creating jobs, No,
Like to do
let's be
more.
honest, because Cameroon is not only about people who make money, who can drive cars. There's also a lot of poverty. Okay.
Yeah.
You have people who sometimes I ask myself when I see people telling me that the salary of a nanny is like 30,000, 35,000. I'm like, how does she cater to her bills? How does she send her kids to school with that kind of money? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Having lived abroad, you realize when you're in college or university, you get to work. You have jobs, you can make some kind of money. We don't have that culture just yet. It's not as popular back home just yet. It's still the parents' job to cater for your education.
Yeah.
Even in those the less privileged household, you still see the mom working twice more hours just to be able to send their kids to school. Sometimes the kids will help, but they will not work full time and all that. It's not in our culture,
No.
So don't, and I refuse when people think that they undermine the good that they are doing. Because if we all were doing this, you will have seen a whole difference,
I agree.
If you have your shop, I'm sure you have people working at the shop for you. You're giving jobs to the people that will be manufacturing the dresses and all that. You will be putting some money in somebody else's business to get the fabric. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not calling you a saint, Ella, but it's just in the
I'm
little,
definitely not a saint.
it's in the little things. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, you should be proud of yourself and just keep going, keep it up, because to me, there's no other way.
Thank you. I'll do my best. Lots of ideas still there, and if we get the grace, and if God gives us the grace to carry on and achieve all of our dreams, then hopefully we can leave a mark.
Well, you cut your coat according to your size, so you cannot.
That's another good one.
You cannot look too far. You have to do what you can within your means. So, and that's exactly what you're doing. On that note, I'll say thank you, Miss Ella Chuwa. We wish you all the best, and we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.